Hey Grace, you need to understand what you've done. How can you be so careless as to leave your responsibilities as a wife and cause problems for William? You're a terrible wife. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Well, mother, I have my reasons for leaving. That doesn't matter. We're moving to a new, nicer apartment. If you want to live with us, I can tell you where it is. I'm sure my mother-in-law doesn't know anything yet. Well, it's good for me that she doesn't know. No, thank you. My name is Grace. I'm 35 and work in an office. I've been married to my husband William for 5 years. He's 40, which is 5 years older than me. I used to date older men, but I liked William because he was generous and kind. Our relationship was good, so we got married. Our marriage was okay, but soon after, problems started to affect our once peaceful life. I lost my job, and then William got fired because the company he worked for was struggling because of the recession. I never expected William to lose his job since he worked for a big company. I thought we would be okay financially and that this would last for our whole lives. But it turns out, nothing in life is guaranteed. We fell into financial trouble. I was a stay-at-home wife, but I decided to start working again. I reached out to my old employer, and fortunately, they hired me because someone had just left to have a baby. It was a relief to have some extra income. If William could find a new job, we'd be okay. But it's tough for a middle-aged man to find work. So he had to take part-time jobs as a day laborer, earning around $700 a month. I wasn't making much either, so we were barely scraping by. Hey, the rent here is too high. Can we move to a cheaper place? We need to lower our fixed costs to make things easier. We used to have a good income and didn't worry about money, living comfortably in a nice apartment. But now, with our financial situation change, I thought it would be wise to move to a cheaper place. However, William strongly disagreed. No, we're not moving. Why not? If we move to a smaller apartment, my mom will ask questions. So what? Why don't you just tell her the truth? We're struggling because you're not working now. William got upset and raised his voice. Don't ever tell my mother I'm unemployed. With your salary and what I make, we can cover the rent. Let's just keep it that way. I was both shocked and confused. You care more about saving face and keeping our current apartment than about our marriage. Even if we can pay the rent, we're still struggling to get by. That's why I suggested moving to a cheaper place. We can't save any money. But William wouldn't budge, so I had to give up on that idea. Life continued to be tough. One day, William said something really frustrating to me. Hey, this is all we have for dinner tonight. We used to have a lot more food. Just because you're working now doesn't mean you can neglect your responsibilities at home. Don't be lazy about managing this. His comment made me angry, so I snapped back. We're barely making ends meet. I'm doing my best at home and at work. If you weren't so concerned about keeping up appearances and wanting to stay here, we could save on food expenses. Or maybe you could earn more money so everything would be fine. When I made those comments, William got really angry and said, "What are you talking about? Don't ever say that to me again. Just wait and see. I'll get a job at a good company and earn more money than you." He was furious, but if it made him more determined, I thought I could handle it. I tried to convince myself that it was okay. But despite his determination, William couldn't find a new job. He had to keep working part-time as a day laborer. Even though he was motivated, he wasn't getting any job offers. He hadn't done any extra training or gotten new qualifications. He had just been doing part-time work. William faced rejection at every interview and grew frustrated with having to compete with younger candidates. Eventually, he gave up on job hunting, still believing he could earn more than I did. I was disappointed and had lost hope. It wasn't just William's situation that worried me. Earlier today, I got another phone call from my mother-in-law. Despite being at work, she called me more than 10 times before I could return the call during my lunch break. Her voice was high-pitched and frustrated from the start. "Why didn't you answer the phone right away? I told you I'm at work, didn't I?" "Well, you called while I was working." My mother-in-law is very close to her husband. A year ago, she called me frequently, and I thought she must be lonely and needed support. But all she talked about was her duty to support her husband, and now that I've started working, she was furious and kept calling me while I was at work. "Did you discuss this with William properly? You can't even return my calls." "I'm sorry. It's hard for us to live with you now. I'm not asking for your opinion. William won't object to it. No, William says it's too hard right now. Plus, we're having financial problems. Financial problems? William works for a big company. He must be making a lot of money. You should be rich, right? I'm always at a loss when she says things like that. William has been very clear that I shouldn't tell his mother the truth, so I can't explain our real situation. Instead, my mother-in-law thinks I'm selfish for working and doesn't believe how tough things are for us. Her calls are annoying, both when I'm at work and when I'm home at night. She believes that as a wife, my main job is to support my husband, which includes taking care of his mother. You haven't come to visit me lately. What's going on? I have a full-time job and I'm exhausted. William works part-time on weekends, so our schedules don't match. I'm sorry. We're both so busy that it's hard to find time. Your schedule? William is off on weekends. You could come then, right? My mother-in-law seemed very frustrated and continued to complain. I felt like it was time to finally tell her the truth about William's situation. No, William works on weekends. What do you mean? Just as I was about to tell her the truth, William, who had been lounging on the sofa watching TV, rushed over and grabbed my phone. Mom, I'm sorry I haven't visited you lately. I'm working on a big project and have to work on weekends too. I'll come see you soon. After he finished speaking, he hung up the phone and came back to me. What were you doing? Were you trying to tell my mom the truth? Just tell her the truth. If you keep hiding it, she'll keep saying things because she doesn't know what's really going on. I'm sorry to hear that, but don't tell my mom. That's enough. Just keep your pride and tell her the truth. Shut up. I'm the one keeping us afloat, so you should be grateful instead of arguing. With that, he went back to his room. I was at my breaking point. I couldn't solve our financial issues, and both my husband and his mother were cornering me. It was too much. William complained that his day job was too demanding and didn't do any housework, but his job wasn't even full-time. He worked on weekends and one day during the week. The rest of the time, he was home. I was sure he could find ways to earn more money or at least help with housework. Why do you do nothing at home and expect me to handle all the chores and work? Fed up with William's complaints, I decided to leave home for a while. I went back to my parents' place for a week to show William how tough managing the house really was. I told my parents everything that had been happening, and they suggested I should get a divorce as soon as possible. But we were in love, had been married for 5 years, and I didn't want to end it just like that. If I was going to get a divorce, I wanted to make sure I tried everything to fix things first. If that didn't work, then I'd consider a divorce. While I was at my parents' house, William called me. When are you coming home? Where's my mail? I won't be home for a while, so you'll have to handle all the housework while I'm gone. Don't be ridiculous. Just come home and take care of the chores. No, I won't. You know how hard housework is. You can clean the house, do the laundry, and cook, do everything yourself. It's important for you to understand how tough it is for me to manage all the housework while working. I made it clear I wasn't coming back, and I ignored William's repeated calls. Staying at my parents' place was very comfortable. For the first time in a long time, I could share the housework with my parents. My mother would say, "You must be tired," and she made many home-cooked meals. I really appreciated not having to do anything and getting food served to me. After spending about a week there, I thought I might want to stay a bit longer. But my parents' house was quite far from my office, taking an hour and a half each way to commute, so it wasn't practical. I thought it was time for William to understand how hard housework is, so I decided to come back home. I was worried the place might be a mess, but it was actually cleaner than I expected. Still, something seemed off. When I checked William's room, I noticed his clothes and suitcases were gone. I figured he must have gone to his mother's place, so I called him. "What are you calling me for now? Where are you?" "I'm at my parents' house." "You didn't go to your parents' house right after I left, did you?" "That's right. What's your point? It doesn't make any sense. You shouldn't have left in the first place. I'm already upset and not going back to that house." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to live with my mom. I'm moving into a new apartment." "I have no idea what you're talking about." I was speechless when the voice on the phone suddenly changed. "Hey, Grace. Do you realize what you've done? How can you abandon your duties as a wife and create problems for William? You're a terrible wife. I'm going to teach you a lesson." "Well, Mother, I have my reasons for leaving." "That doesn't matter. We're moving to a new, nicer apartment. If you want to join us, I'll tell you where it is." I'm sure my mother-in-law doesn't know anything yet. Well, it's good for me that she doesn't. No, 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 no. Thank you. What? My immediate refusal shocked my mother-in-law. I was firm in my decision not to move. Oh, are you serious? If William is going to live with me, then unless you come over here, you'll have to be on your own. You can live alone, can't you? You've been relying on him. Don't worry, I have enough to manage on my own. If we don't live together, then there's no reason for us to stay married. So I'm divorcing him. The mention of divorce seemed to shock both my mother-in-law and William. On the phone, my mother-in-law said, "Grace, there's no need to talk about divorce. I can't stay married to you anymore. I need to get rid of a terrible husband like you as soon as possible." When I said that, my mother-in-law reacted angrily. "How dare you speak about William like that? We don't want a life like yours either. So fine, William, just get a divorce." "No. I'll get the divorce papers ready. You'll regret this. It's too late for apologies." "Same to you." With that, the call ended. I figured my mother-in-law and William would soon show up with the divorce papers. I was relieved that things were turning out as I hoped. I was grateful that William wasn't willing to change and had gone back to his mother's place. This made it easier for me to decide to move on. If he wasn't going to improve, there was no reason for us to stay together. I packed my bags and waited for my mother-in-law to arrive. A few hours later, she showed up. "Oh, William isn't here. He doesn't need to be. Here you go. I had him fill out his part already. You need to complete yours as soon as possible." She handed me the divorce papers. I noticed that William's section had a shaky handwriting, as if he was reluctant. My mother-in-law ranted, "William is such a wonderful man. Despite having a terrible wife like you, he was hesitant about the divorce. I'll never forgive you for causing trouble for such a great person. I hope you live poorly and regret it." While I filled out my part of the form, my mother-in-law continued to yell at me. William's pride had prevented him from telling his mother the truth until the end. What a pathetic man he is. "What happened to your house? I saw that." "Well, if you want to come over, there's no place for you." "No, I won't." "How much did you sell it for?" "It was old, so it must have been cheap." "That's none of your business, but since I'm being nice, I'll tell you. It was about $50,000. It's not a huge amount, but enough for retirement. William will cover the cost of our new apartment." "Wow, I'm surprised you got approved." "What are you talking about? William is a high-class person. It was expected." "So you deposited the money into William's account. How did you know that?" "That's not important. Stop asking." And that's just how a divorced woman talks. "So obviously you're still interested in him, but it's too late for that." "Don't worry. I've already agreed to the divorce." When I said that, my mother-in-law snapped and left. I was thrilled to be free from both her and William. I gathered the rest of my belongings and moved them back to my parents' house. I discovered a lot of things I'd collected for my small apartment. By leaving, I had managed to provoke my mother-in-law, which helped me escape the financial struggle. There was no way I'd hand over any of William's property. She would have to deal with it. Even now, I find it amusing to remember William's pale face during the property division discussion. Then, about 2 years later, I got a call from a number I recognized. I thought it might be work-related and picked up the phone, only to find it was my ex-mother-in-law. "Oh my God, Grace, please help me." "Mother, don't call me that. We're strangers now." "Don't say that. I'm in trouble." "Huh? Can't pay the rent and running out of savings." "Yes." "He didn't tell you about the financial problems until things were really bad, did he?" "Oh, you knew. I suspected he didn't want to tell you, but every time I tried, William told me not to." "I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry, Grace. I didn't know anything. Please come back." "I don't want to." "He wouldn't change no matter how much I tried. Even you were always bullying me. I don't want to be around people like you ever again." "Please don't say that. I don't have anything to eat anymore. I'm really struggling." According to my ex-mother-in-law, William had been trying to keep up appearances and didn't tell her about the financial issues. He used the $50,000 from selling the family home to pay rent, but his mother became suspicious if he didn't spend money on expensive groceries and fancy meals now and then. As a result, he quickly burned through that money and is now broke. Well, he got what he deserved, didn't he? Why don't you put aside your pride and live modestly in a cheap apartment? No, it wasn't supposed to be like this. I was supposed to live comfortably with my elite son. My ex-mother-in-law cried as she spoke, but I quietly ended the call and blocked all her numbers. I also filed a restraining order against her just in case I needed to involve the police. They always seem to rely on others, whether it's parents or children. I've learned a lot from this experience and am determined to live independently. I've refocused on my own life and am working to move forward. The truth is clear. William continued living beyond his means, and my mother-in-law blamed only me without questioning her own son. I'm relieved to have cut ties with such a difficult mother and son. I'm confident that I can now live an independent life and hopefully meet a wonderful person in the future. I wish for happiness and success moving forward. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.